Hey everybody, welcome to the KECC official podcast. This is Jack Groves, the station manager. Now I know this isn't your typical John Christopher podcast, but this is a pretty special episode. So last week I had the opportunity to talk to Michael Sweet of the band Stryper, a 1980s Christian hair metal band that has lots of dads just loving them. I have a lot of questions come from the professors here that grew up with Stryper, including my dad, and I got a chance to interview him. And I also even saw Stryper this last summer with my dad in Minneapolis, and it was a kickin' show. They are loud, they're rambunctious, but they are very talented dudes still, and they're like in their 50s or 60s. I don't even know how old they are. But I hope you guys enjoy this interview with Michael Sweet. There were a few technical problems, but that doesn't really matter as much because, hey, the interview still got through, God is still good, and we got Samoa cookies. You ever had Girl Scout Samoan cookies? They're pretty good. Anyways, here's the interview with Michael Sweet. That's Michael. And now my mic is broken. Oh well. All right, here we go. Hello, this is KECC 98.1.
Hey, this is Michael Sweet calling. How are you?
Hi, Mr. Sweet. I'm doing great. My name is Jack Groves.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, man.
You too. It's wonderful to hear your voice. We actually went to a concert of yours in Minnesota this last summer, and it was an incredible experience. And so it's cool to hear the difference between just a normal, casual Michael Sweet and the high-pitched, wonderful singing voice that is you on stage. So.
Well, there's a big difference. But yeah, I'm glad you made it to a show and glad you liked it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was my first experience, but it was not my first experience for my dad. So that was it was absolutely wonderful. And I thanks so much for calling in today.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. No problem. And thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess to kind of kick it off, I did want to kind of touch on with how high and how hard you do sing. How do you keep your voice so even and so consistent?
I have learned over the past 10 years how to sing around that, and as I said, choose my battles. I don't try to hit every high note, but I try to hit the ones that matter. The end of Tale with the Devil, the end of Soldier and a Command, the ones that people really expect to hear and want to hear.
Totally.
I do my best to hit those. So I've been blessed to be able to still retain enough of my voice to pull off what I need to pull off.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that you save your voice for the specific ones the audience are expecting, because that's exactly what my dad was leaning over to me saying, just check this out, wait for this to happen. And then when it hits, it's like the most satisfying thing. So that's cool to hear you say that. That's something you have to be cognizant of.
Yeah, and I'm happy with the fact that I can still do what I love to do. Some guys can't, and they've either lost their voice entirely or they're not able to perform for whatever reason. And I count my blessings every day, and I'm very grateful for the fact that I can still go out there and do what I need to do.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I know that there were some people who were so impressed with your voice that they asked you to lead Boston a few years ago. How was that experience?
That was great. I mean, I wound up, sadly, coming into Boston through the death of Brad Delp.
Yeah.
They lost Brad, and they were going to end it and do a one-off show. They asked me to be a part of it, along with, Ann Wilson and Sammy Hagar, Mickey Thomas, and a number of other singers. And I was one of those guys that they asked, and it wound up turning into me being asked to join the band. And they continued on and did a tour, and I did the '08 tour with Styx in Boston, and it was amazing. I mean, I was up on stage every night, just kind of mind blown and in awe of the moment.
I cannot even imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, and I got to do that. I left the band, left Boston in 2011, and to focus primarily on Stryper and my solo career and solo music, and I haven't looked back.
And speaking of that, I know you've been releasing a lot of different, you do your solo project like you mentioned, and I know Stryper released an album this year. Is that seeming like it's going to be the trend, at least coming up here next few years, or are there going to be more solo projects, maybe a side band?
Definitely. There's going to be, I'm going to start work when I get home from this tour. Right before Thanksgiving, I'm going to start writing a new solo album, and I'll start recording that in mid-January. So,
Wow.
yeah, and, I just kind of made the decision to do it. The label Rat Pack, Joe O'Brien is really excited about it. I am as well. Going to go with the same lineup for the most part. I might bring in a few other guest guitar players on a song here or a song there. But it's going to be very similar in a follow-up to One-Sided War, my last solo album. And then that'll probably come out probably summertime, maybe June or July of next year. And then Stryper is planning on starting recording a new Stryper album probably around this time next year.
Oh, wow. That's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, and it'll come out the early part of 2020.
Wonderful. You mentioned that you're going to start recording in January and hopefully have your solo album out by June or July. Is that a quick turnaround for you, or is that pretty normal?
It's pretty normal. I mean, usually the way it works is I'll do pre-production for a couple of weeks. That's writing and arranging and whatnot, and then we'll start recording basic tracks. It'll take us a couple of weeks to record basic tracks. So there's a month. And then I'll go to my house and I'll record all the vocals. And I take my time with the vocals. So, I'll go down and record a verse or two verses and then go run errands or walk the dog or go to the beach or whatever and just kind of hang out and chill. And then I'll come back later in the evening and I'll finish the song. Or the next day I'll finish the song.
Sure.
So I take my time. I don't like to rush anything. I like to think about it, listen back to it, and really, chew on it for a while. And doing it that way takes a little longer. So with 12 or 13 songs, it might take me, 3 weeks, upwards of 4 weeks to finish the vocals. And then at that time, I'll go back to the studio in Northampton, Mass, and we'll mix it. And that's usually about 2 songs per day process. So about 6 to 7 days to do that. And then it'll get mastered. It'll get sent out. So if you add up all that time, you're talking about 2 months, maybe a little over 2 month period. And that's fairly normal. That's not rushing it, and that's not extending it so much to the point where you suck the life out of it and it becomes stale.
Right.
I don't like to rush anything. I hear a band saying, "Oh yeah, we did this in a week," and I'm thinking to myself, "Well, God bless you." I feel like when you start rushing things and doing things that quickly, you really open the door for compromise, and that's never a good situation.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree with you. And you mentioned having a new album out next year, or at least starting to record a new album next year. And with your album you released this year and going back on tour, why did you guys decide it was time to make some new music and hit the road?
Well, I mean, we just we usually have it planned out according to the calendar, and that's usually every couple of years we like to release an album. You got Stryper, and then I'll go back and forth with Stryper with my solo albums and other projects that I'm doing, like Sweet Lynch or anything else that I'm a part of. So it usually winds up being like an album a year. It's pretty much what it is. Like a Michael Sweet album will come out one year, next year a Stryper album. Next year a Sweet Lynch album, next year a Stryper album, and maybe sometimes in 1 year even 2 albums. And I like to keep the ball rolling and keep that energy flowing. It's important to me. I'm a very creative person, so the songs are just always there and always coming. So it's important for me to be able to, express that and get that on in some form of recording and release it to the fans.
Sure.
Because it's just what I do. Now, whether I sell a lot of albums or not, that doesn't really matter to me. That doesn't dictate how many albums I do or if I do any albums. And it's all about just my passion for music and being creative and wanting to get it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And speaking of passion, I feel like you have inspired probably quite a few Christian metal bands over the past 20 or so years, Skillet being a prime example, as well as many others. Do you guys think of yourselves as Christian metal pioneers?
Not really. I mean, but, when someone says that phrase or refers to us as that, I don't become uncomfortable because I look at it and I think, well, we have been around for 35 years, and I guess in some regard we are pioneers because we were there in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're at the start of it all. Back in '83 is when we formed, and in '83 there weren't any Christian metal bands, and there were very few metal bands, just mainstream metal bands that were doing the style that we're doing or that we did, with the big harmonies and harmony guitars and whatnot. There weren't really very many, if any. So I guess in that regard, I do understand why someone would consider us pioneers, and it's an honor to be looked at in that way and to be called pioneers, and it's really cool to have been a part of it from the very beginning.
Absolutely. And really from the very beginning, because I know quite a few faculty here at Evangel who are pretty jealous that I get to talk to you today. One of them is sitting in this room.
That's awesome. And, it's one of those things where we're very blessed. Why God chose us and why the four of us and the band Stryper was chosen to do what it's done. You look at the history and you think of all the accomplishments and all the things that have happened, transpired over the years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And sometimes even miraculous.
Absolutely. I had a question about that as well, because so back when you guys originally started, you definitely grabbed people's attention with a track like "To Hell with the Devil," is definitely something that grabs people's attention. And with your new album this year with "Goddamn Evil," it's pretty clear that Stryper isn't like a typical faith-based band. So what are your thoughts on turning phrases that are typically associated with vulgarity and using them as a possible ministering tool?
Well, the thing about Stryper is our faith is deep and as secure as it comes. We are absolutely sold out to Christ, but at the same time, we're not sold out to all the traditional rules and regulations that many Christians and Christian churches try to push upon people. And what I mean by that is, for example, "goddamn evil." People hear that phrase, "goddamn," and obviously get up in arms about it because of what they've been taught, what has been, for lack of a better way of putting it, basically, branded into their brains their entire lifetime by maybe their parents or relatives or whatnot, or by the church. And I understand that, but what we wanted to do, what we try to do, is break the barriers and educate people that those are just words. It's how you use them that makes all the difference.
Interesting. Yeah.
And they're just words. They're just English dictionary words. And if you use God's name in vain, you go around saying GD all the time in anger or whatever. Obviously, that's a problem. But, to say "goddamn evil" as a request and looking to heaven and saying "God damn evil," praying, "Will you damn evil?" There's nothing wrong with that. And many Christians still think there is.
That, I think,
it's very interesting.
Absolutely. I told some of my associates and my friends about this interview and played for some of that music. They're awestruck at the fact that they felt that you guys felt so confident to say something like that. But you're absolutely right when it talk about the intention behind it.
That's exactly what it is, and that's everything right there. So we try to break the barriers and wake people up. We try to say and write about things and do things in a way where people hear it, go, "What?"
Yeah.
And then they read the lyric and they hear the explanation and they go, "Oh, okay, wow, I never thought of it that way. I understand."
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what happened to me. That's so I definitely understand where that's coming from. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've always been about that with "To Hell with the Devil." Same thing. People thought we were swearing and we were saying "Go to hell with the devil," and then once they read the lyrics, it's like, no, we're saying the devil, his place is in hell. Hell was created for the devil, and to hell with the devil. And it made people talk and think and made their heads spin and got the point across in a very interesting way, which is what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, that's such a good point. I remember some people that I've talked to who would not profess themselves as Christian listen to your music because they for one, you guys have a wonderfully professional sound, but then also you grab their attention with something like that, and they're able to read into it more so in the future.
Well, that's the key. I mean, because we live in a world where if you don't grab people's attention, what's the point?
Sure.
I mean, if you're just making comments and statements, but no one's paying attention, it's useless.
Absolutely.
You have to somehow get their attention, and then you say, okay, here's what we're saying, and they go, oh, so it's a big deal and a very important deal, and Stryper always tries to make it a point to grab people's attention.
Which you definitely certainly have done. Michael, do you know how much longer we have together?
A few more minutes, because I do have another interview coming up very soon. So maybe if you want to ask one other really good question, I will do my best to answer it.
Well, yeah, sure. I guess I was just wondering, because you guys are doing, what do you think the response from the fans has been for this final tour, or not final tour, but this tour you're on right now?
Well, the response has been incredible, and it always blows our minds because we go out not knowing what to expect, and then we come back home having been completely blown away by the outpouring of support and the response. And it's been the same on this tour, on this run. So we've been very blessed in that regard. And, year after year after year, you're talking about for 34 years, almost 35 years, we've continued to go out and tour, and people have come out and given us their support, their love, their prayers, and it's really awesome. It's so cool to see. Yes, the music industry is different now. You got to find ways to, survive and be more interesting and figure out ways to make it work because it's a different music world. But Stryper's been able to do that, and we're blessed to say that we've been going for 35 years. And, we may be going for another 35. Sometimes I don't like to think about that thought, but, it's possible. You never know if we stay healthy, Lord willing, and we're able to go out there and stand on a stage and still perform.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
And grab people's attention and do it in a good way and powerful way. Then we'll keep doing it.
Sure. Well, that sounds wonderful, Mr. Sweet. I hope to see you in 35 years from now. We'll see you up on that stage.
Yeah, you know what? You never know, man. It's not here on earth, certainly in heaven.
Sure. Oh, yeah, but performing in heaven's gates. Michael, are you all right with recording a liner for us for our radio station? I know you're at a hotel, but is there a possibility of getting some kind of, Stryper yell thing?
I wish I could.
I
wish I could, but I'm literally not just in a hotel, but I'm in a basement of a hotel in a business area, and there are people walking around me left and right. That's why you keep your doors shut.
That would probably, okay, so how about we don't do that? But yeah, could you say, this is Michael Sweet, and you're listening to KECC 98.1?
Give me the call letters again.
KECC 98.1.
KECC 98.1.
Yes.
You got it. Okay. Hey, everybody, this is Michael Sweet of Stryper, and you are listening to KECC 98.1.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Okay, Brother Jack. Have a good one. Thank you so much, my friend.
You too, Michael. Have a good day.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Well, all right. That was the interview with Michael Sweet, and I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but enjoy it. Thanks.